Bittersweet moment. I'm gonna miss that car, but Lloyd's gonna take care of it. He's gonna do a real good job with that. Okay, as you can see, we've got Dave's truck back in the shop. We're gonna try to chase down a couple vibration issues. It seems like the rear brake drums, whenever you get on the brakes, there's a vibration from the rear drums. So I'm gonna pull the drums off and inspect them. Maybe we got some slightly out of round reproduction brake drums for that. So we're gonna check out that. Also, the drive shaft still has a little bend in it. We had it on the lift and you could see the drive shaft had a little bend still. So we did have that straightened once, but they must not have gotten it perfectly straight. So I'm gonna check that out. Also, what I'm gonna do is pull the transmission off of the motor so I can access the coupler. And I'm gonna try some different grease on there and some O-rings or a collar to keep that thing from shifting back and forth. Because you can hear a little bit of a high-pitched vibration rattle, and I think it's just that coupler moving around a little bit. So we'll try to get that locked down and silent. I got the motor and the trans disconnected here so I can reach up in there and access the splines. And I found out that the spline coupler is not moving back and forth, but it's chattering rotationally. And I think it's just a slight misfit between the machining on the coupler and the motor. So I've got some special stuff. This is Loctite 660. And this little bottle here was $67. So it's not cheap, but this is what everybody recommends for loose fitting splines. And what this will do is harden up, rock hard, and bond the seal and kind of fill the gaps in the splines to take out all that slop. And it should be a very long-term fix for this problem. So I'll go ahead and slather this all over the splines, and then we're gonna reinstall the coupler. You can see the coupler there, and hopefully that chattering that we had is gonna disappear with that. And then we're gonna start working on the rest of the truck. Okay, we got the drive shaft back from the drive shaft shop, and it's all balanced and should be perfect. And then I got the motor reattached to the transmission. Let's see if you can see the coupler in there. And I got that Loctite 660 on there, which seems to have taken out all of the play. That 660 is specifically designed for loose fitting splines, and it hardens up and becomes extremely solid. And I have spun the motor up, and it really is silent now, just totally smooth like it should be, which is great. And then one trick that I did is all of these bolts between the transmission and the motor coupler, I tightened those like hand tight, so they're just kind of barely touching but still have a little bit of movement. And then I got in the truck and I spun up the motor and got it up to good RPM. When using the leaf motor and the Resolve, it'll actually hang up at like 8,000 RPM, and it'll take a long time to slow all the way down to 0 when the regen is off. So I had the motor spinning, and then I went around and tightened all these up. And what that does is that perfectly centers the shaft, so that when you tighten up the transmission, then that shaft, has self-centered itself, and now it's locked in. Boom, ready to go. So I've been revving the motor freely here in the shop, and there's 0 vibration. It is totally slop free, which is so cool. It wasn't like that before because there was a little bit of movement in the coupler, but I'm glad I learned about this Loctite 660. I'm going to be using that on all my conversions with these couplers. So I got the motor in there. I also used my laser. I've got a laser for construction, just a laser line, and I lined it up with this casting mark here on the transmission, and I made sure that it was centered up on right here on the center of the motor, and then I aimed it at the rear diff. And when I first set it up, it was actually off about 3/4 of an inch to the left here, but then I loosened all the bolts for the transmission mount here and the motor mounts in the front, and I used some leverage to shift the whole thing over to the left, and then I reran my laser and it came boom right down in the center. So not only is everything up there perfectly aligned, but now the drive shaft has a straight shot back to the rear diff. So I think this is going to be huge for the vibrations that Dave was complaining about, and it should just be silky smooth. we had a little bit of vibration when you got on the brakes, and we narrowed it down to these rear drums. So I did replace the drum brakes and the shoes and everything in there, but maybe these rotors or these drums weren't perfectly machined or something, and they had a little bit of vibration. But what I did is I took a wire wheel and I wire wheeled all the surfaces, all the surface rust off of there, and then reseated the drums. So I'm hoping that that'll solve the problem with the brakes. If not, we might have to get a different manufacturer of drum brakes. We just got, you know, a good brand off of Rock Auto, but possibly there were some inconsistencies there. So that's pretty much it for the Frontier. I'm going to get the drive shaft put back in, and we'll sit it on the wheels, and it should leave the shop smooth as ever. All right, we got the drive shaft in there. Snug these up really tight. It's looking good. Yeah, I can already tell that the driveline lash of that coupler has disappeared now. It was really hard to tell before, but you could definitely more hear than feel it. But you could, especially like when I'm cruising at a constant speed, constant RPM, you would get a little bit of a noise from that coupler, and that's disappeared now. I'm gonna take it up a little bit faster. Dave was saying he'd mostly felt it around 45 or 50. It seems really smooth up here at 45. I think we got it licked. Get a little bit of pulse to the brake pedal. I think those rear drums are just not quite right. Yeah, just ever so slightly. When you get on the brakes, you feel a little bit. We got the power. I forgot about how much fun this thing is to drive. It's just so much fun. All right, yeah, I think we got it fixed for Dave. Hopefully he's happy with it when he gets it back. So as you probably saw in the video title, I had to make a really tough decision recently, and I ended up selling my 1982 Electrek. Now that was the car that started my channel. You can remember this video here where I asked, can I restore this 1982 EV? And I guess the answer is no, I couldn't. Well, I probably could, but I decided it was time to let go of that car and move it on to a new owner who can finish up the interior work and the other aesthetic things. I did a whole bunch of work on that car, all new suspension, all new brakes. It has a brand new motor, literally brand new, and a controller out of their dyno tuning session, which is a special controller that would produce up to 400 amps of power, whereas the original controller in those cars was about 200 to 300 amps. So I got the paint job done on that car. I got the wheels restored, brand new tires on it, and it's just a good car now for the new owner, Lloyd, to finish out. And Lloyd is a true enthusiast. He actually owns 5 of these Electreks now. He bought last year my yellow Electrek, the coupe, and that one was in much rougher shape, and I had just been letting it sit at my uncle-in-law's property, and I just decided I need to focus on EV swap. I need to follow my passion and get this business going. And I felt like that car was kind of distracting me from that mission, and it was taking up space, it was taking up my resources, and I just needed to let it go. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment. I'm glad that I got it to a new owner, Lloyd, who's going to do that car justice. He, like I said, he owns 5 of those Electreks now. He's got a whole fleet of them. He's actually from Florida, so he drove all the way out here in an Ironman drive with his buddy to pick up the Electrek, and then they turned around and drove all the way back to Florida. It's about a 30-hour drive each way. So you can tell that his passion is right there to be able to do that, to be willing to do that kind of trek to get the Electrek. But like I said, it was just, I think, a distraction from what I feel is my main focus should be, which is the EV swap company. So I'm going to redouble my efforts on EV swap. We're going to do way more conversions like the Frontier, like the Tacoma, and a few others I haven't even mentioned yet. But I feel like this is the right move for me at this point, to just get rid of that car and send it off to greener pastures where somebody can focus on that thing 100%. And not only did I sell him the car, but I had acquired a whole bunch of parts. If you remember from my early videos on this channel, I had collected other controllers, parts controllers, and another working controller. And then we repaired my original controller that was in that car. And I gave him the original motor that I had from that car, and then an old used motor that, if you remember Jim McCullough, he was an engineer at Unique Mobility, and after the company folded, he squirreled away all the parts that he could and stuffed them in his garage for another day. And I met Jim, and through Declan and Jim and the little community we have here, I was able to obtain some of those parts, and I sent them along with the Electrek. Now Lloyd not only has the ability to get the brown Electrek fully ready to go and running, but he can use those parts on his other cars to get some of those that aren't working again. So like I said, it's kind of a bittersweet moment, but I felt like I had to do it. And I really only asked Lloyd. I didn't put the car up for sale anywhere else. I knew Lloyd had a keen interest in these cars, and it turned out to work out perfectly. So I won't discuss how much I sold it for, but I feel pretty good on what I got for it and the time and effort and the paint job and all the things that I did to the car. So I'm feeling really good about the sale. And like I said, Lloyd is going to treat those cars right. He has 5 of them now, and he has a whole shop that he's building, a big metal shop in his yard to put all those cars in so he can work on them one by one. So I probably will get some photos and maybe some videos from Lloyd as he completes the progress, and I'll be sure to share them here on this channel. But unfortunately, we're probably not going to see the Electrek, at least for a long time, here on EV Swap. And I have to give that car credit. That's what I launched this channel with, was that Electrek, restoring it, doing all the mechanical work, talking about it, doing the battery upgrade like I did, the paint job, all the fiberglass repairs. So it's bittersweet. What can I say? I would love to have the time and the capacity to have that car in my fleet, but it just wasn't going to happen. So I sent it off to a new owner, and I'm sure that he's going to love it just as much or more than I did. I'm sure that a lot of you guys are going to be sad to hear that. I know that a lot of my subscribers subscribe to this channel for that Electrek and the journey that we had with that car. And I had a lot of goals that I wanted to do with it that I'm just not going to be able to do. I wanted to drive it over to Jason Street in Inglewood, where those cars were manufactured, and kind of have a reunion back at the original place where it rolled out of. I wanted to take it on some road trips in here in Colorado and show it off at Cars and Coffee type events, but it's just not in the cards. And I'm really a little sad about that, but I'm really happy now that I can focus 100% in on EV Swap. I think that is truly the direction that I need to go, and I think that's where my true passion lies, is converting vehicles to fully electric. I think that's the best for me and for EV Swap, and so I'm sad to say the Electrek is gone. Bittersweet moment. I'm gonna miss that car, but Lloyd's gonna take care of it. He's gonna do a real good job with that.